The morning light hit the glass walls as Edison pushed a tablet toward me. A blurry image showed me entering the building last week. His voice stayed calm, but his eyes were cold. He said they had concerns about my actions after hours. Finn sat beside him with a sharp smile. He spoke about betrayal as if it was already proven. I felt nothing at all. No fear, no anger, no shock, just silence inside me. Edison told me I was terminated effective immediately. He slid a paper forward like it meant everything. I nodded and said I should focus on one role. Their faces changed because they expected resistance. They wanted emotion, but I gave them calm. They did not understand what that calm really meant. A heavy weight lifted from my shoulders. Music. 3 years of pressure disappeared in a single moment. Finn asked for passwords and access details. I told him everything was already documented. That was not entirely true. The knowledge existed, but not the understanding. Security walked me to my desk. People stared, but nobody spoke. I packed slowly with steady hands. A mug, a plant, and a notebook full of systems.arlo watched from behind glass. Greater than music, greater than he knew what would follow, but said nothing. Outside, the air felt different. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. Vega asked if we were still meeting later. I replied yes and told her I could now accept fully. The decision felt simple and final. 3 years of building something for others ended. 3 years of being invisible was over. My name is Arya Wesley. Greater than music, greater than. Until moments ago, I carried an entire system alone. I was supposed to be part of a team, but that team slowly disappeared over time. Budget cuts removed people. Resignations took the rest. Soon there was only me left. One person guarding a massive digital system, greater than music, greater than. At first I believed. In the vision, Arlo had promised growth and support, but reality changed quickly. Positions vanished and were never replaced. Greater than music, greater than each quarter brought more work. Each year brought more silence. I warned them about risks. I explained the dangers clearly. They listened, but did nothing. My words faded in meetings and reports. When I asked for help, I was told to manage better. When I asked for fair pay, I received praise instead. They called me a star, but stars burn alone in the dark. I offered to train others. Nobody ever made time. I prevented a major breach once. I worked without sleep to stop it. They gave me a small reward. While others took the credit, that was when I understood. I was not valued. I was used. Music. I scheduled one final meeting. I showed them data and facts. I explained the system could not survive like this. They dismissed it again. They said documentation would solve everything. They ignored the deeper problem. Something inside me broke. That day, I knew I had to leave. Then came the conference in another city. A rare chance to step away. That is where I met Vega. She listened in a way no one else had. We spoke as equals. Ideas flowed freely without fear. She offered me advisory work. Simple, legal, and respectful. I accepted without much hesitation. For the first time, I felt valued. For weeks, I lived 2 lives. One where I was ignored and one where I mattered. Then someone saw me near her office and assumptions were made. That is what led to my termination. Not truth, but perception. They believed I was replaceable. They did not understand the system. My work required constant care. Adjustments only I knew how to make. I had tried to teach them. They had no interest in learning. As I drove away that day, I knew what would happen next. The system would begin to fail. Slowly, music at first. Then all at once. On Monday, I joined my new company. Everything felt different immediately. I met my team. 8 people with skills and curiosity. They asked questions. They challenged ideas. We worked together, not as a burden, but as a unit. It felt unfamiliar, yet right, like something I had been missing. Meanwhile, the old system began to struggle, just as I had predicted. Small issues appeared, then larger ones followed. Calls started coming. Voices that once ignored me now sounded desperate. I did not answer. Their urgency was no longer mine. By the second day, panic spread. Executives reached out with offers. They wanted me back. They promised anything. I replied with a simple message. I was focusing on one role now. Back at my new place, we built something stronger. We designed systems that did not rely on one person. We built resilience together. The contrast was clear. One place drained me, the other restored me. By midweek, the old company collapsed into chaos. Systems failed across departments. Music. Clients lost access. Trust began to vanish. News spread quickly. The damage became public. They accused me silently. They looked for someone to blame, but I had done nothing wrong. Greater than music. Greater than I had only done my job. Eventually, the board reached out. Their tone was different. They admitted mistakes. Music. They asked for help. I thought about ignoring them. But something else mattered. Not revenge, but change. Not failure, but learning. I agreed to help with conditions. Strict terms that forced accountability. They accepted without argument. Desperation leaves no room for pride. I guided them remotely. Step by step through recovery. They struggled at first because knowledge cannot be rushed, but slowly stability returned. The system began to heal. Greater than. Music. Greater than. By the end of the session, they understood more than before. Not just the system, but the cost of ignoring people. I ended the call without emotion. That chapter was already closed. Back in my new office, life continued forward. We expanded our work. We built a new division. Companies came seeking help. Fear drove them to learn. My experience became a lesson, not just for me, but for others. Months passed quickly. Success grew steadily. I stood on a stage again, but this time I was not alone. I represented a team. A system built on respect. In the audience sat people from my past. They watched quietly. They saw what I had become. They saw what they had lost. That was the real outcome. Greater than Claire's throat. Greater than not their failure, but my growth. Not their loss, but my gain. Not revenge, but transformation. I built something better. Something sustainable and real. A place where voices mattered. Where no one carried everything alone. That is the true victory. Not destruction, but creation. Sometimes the best answer is leaving. Sometimes the best revenge is success. And sometimes the strongest move is choosing yourself without regret.